Well, we're going to jump right in with both feet because the phrasing of this particular question interested me. Enoch in Pennsylvania wants to know whether or not, or why he shouldn't just believe whatever makes the most sense to him. So welcome, Enoch. You're on with Jim and Matt. How are you?
Good. How are you guys?
Not too bad.
Yeah.
How can we? So, is that accurately your question, or is there more to it? Just why should, are you wondering why you just shouldn't believe whatever makes the most sense?
Yeah. So basically, to me personally, it just makes more sense to believe that there's a all-powerful being that created everything than to believe it happened by chance.
Well,
So
see,
we don't know, but since we don't know,
you set up a false dichotomy.
why don't?
You've set up, it makes more sense that God did it than that it all happened by chance. Well, irrespective of which of those makes sense, those aren't the only options. And maybe the right answer is to say you don't have enough information to believe that you have any good understanding of how the universe came to be. So why believe either one? You don't have to commit to something, right?
You don't have to, but I mean, it makes more sense.
Do you think it's a good idea to commit when you I don't have to commit to a belief on who's going to win the game, whatever game we're talking about between team A and team B. I don't have to commit to a belief at all. Do you think it's a good idea for me to commit before I have enough information to make the decision?
No.
Then stop doing it. Then stop doing that when it comes to a God. If you admit, which you did already, that you don't have enough information to make a decision, then your position should be, I don't know whether or not there's a God. I'm not convinced there's a God because there hasn't been sufficient evidence to convince me that there's a God. And I will be convinced that there's a God as soon as there is sufficient evidence.
Right. And it makes the most sense to me that I should believe that I have $1 million in my bank account. Should I run around and act as if I have $1 million in my bank account? Or will that lead me into seriously negative consequences?
Actually.
Okay.
Pardon?
Go ahead.
So, yeah, I don't think it can't be proven, but I just think it seems like it's more likely that that's the case.
How did you determine that it's more likely? How did you determine that it's more likely God than something other than God?
Because it doesn't make sense that the universe could come about on its own.
Who said the universe came about at all, or that it came about on its own? The issue is, did a God do it? And you just say that makes more sense. But when I ask you why it makes more sense, your answer is because it doesn't make sense for something else to have happened. What reason do you have to think that the best explanation for existence is that there's a God?
It just, things can't come about by themselves.
Prove that. How do you know that?
We've never seen it happen before.
Okay.
Actually, that's not correct. We have at the quantum level.
Have we ever seen a God before? Have we ever seen a God do anything? Because you just defeated your own argument in the same way that we haven't seen something come from nothing or something create itself in the limited scope that you're talking about. We also haven't seen a God do anything. So that means that you shouldn't believe that there's a God, right? What's wrong with just saying you don't know? Why is it that you're so desperate to say, and by the way, every time you address this question, you do a false dichotomy. You say it's either God or it happened by chance. It's either God or it created itself. There may be an explanation for the origin of the universe that is neither the simplistic created itself nor God did it, right? There are other options that maybe you don't know about, right?
True, yeah.
Okay, so why are you so desperate to make a decision now when you admit that you don't have good reason or evidence to support the conclusion you're reaching?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I'm so desperate per se. It's just, it seems like it's...
Do you care whether or not your beliefs are likely to be true?
Yes.
Then you should, when somebody says, do you believe there's a God? Your answer should be, I don't know. Because that's the truth.
Okay.
I mean, if you care about whether your beliefs are true, you can't just go, well, this is what makes the most sense to me. And here's the defeater for this really quickly. Once upon a time, it made really good sense to people that lightning came from Zeus. Do we think lightning comes from Zeus now?
No, because we have a better explanation.
Yeah, because we have a better explanation. But all those people who believed all those for all those years, they would be sitting around going, why shouldn't I just believe what makes the most sense to me? It makes the most sense to me that Zeus is there. And the answer is because you don't have enough reason to reach that conclusion, and you could be wrong. And if you are convinced of something and you're wrong, how much time are you going to spend looking for the right answer? Because you don't think you're wrong.
I would still look for, if more evidence comes in or whatever, and we have different. I mean, I'm still gonna look for other options if they present themselves.
Okay, well, right now, the best empirical evidence that exists, matter of fact, all of the available empirical evidence suggests that there's no evidence that a God created anything or that a God was required to create anything.
Okay. Well, that basically answers my question.
Okie doke.
Okay.
Thanks for calling, Enoch.
All right, thank you. Yep.
And the something from nothing doesn't quite work at the quantum level because we do see particles come into existence without cause and from basically nothing.
And I completely disagree with and reject that. I think the description is that we see particles doing things that we don't have an explanation for. The ex nihilo, something from nothing, there's no nothing. You can't act on a nothing. Nothing can't, there's nothing. But yeah.
Yeah, and that's the other interesting topic is the definition of nothing. The physicists don't really have one that does not include the quantum. I hate to use the word quantum world, but I'm a piker, so I'll use it.
Yeah.
And I'll let the quantum physicist scream about it. But yeah, it's just a lot of that stuff starts to go away when you start getting into some of the quantum mechanics. So yeah,
cool. It's a little complicated, but I'm gonna stay away from it largely.